Welcome to the Making Health Dooable podcast. I'm Cheryl Borchardt.
And I'm Sarah Shaw.
And together we're your hosts on this journey as you learn what it takes to live well.
We are dedicated to tackling topics that empower you to make massive progress in your health and wellness journey by using our pillars of health: eat well, move well, live well, and respond well.
At Dooable Health, our mission is simple: to help everyone live well. As a team of physicians, board-certified health coaches, and law enforcement experts, we're here to serve employees and first responders with coaching, workshops, and masterclasses designed to conquer stress, anxiety, and burnout.
But our dedication doesn't stop there. We're also committed to improving wellness for individuals like you by offering at-home lab testing and personalized coaching to support your unique needs.
Because whether you're an employee, a first responder, or simply an individual seeking better health, we believe that life can feel better for everyone when health is made doable.
So join us as we embark on this journey together, where we'll provide you with the tools, insights, and encouragement you need to thrive.
And stay tuned for enlightening discussions, expert interviews, and actionable advice that will inspire you to take charge of your well-being and live your best life.
Until next time, remember, life can feel better when health is made doable.
Finally we begin, we have an exciting new offering from Dooable Health: at-home lab testing with our integrative health practitioner, Janine Finelli.
I'm Janine Finelli, integrative health practitioner, National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach, and VP at Dooable Health. We offer at-home functional lab testing for individuals to test and not guess when it comes to their health. Whether you are interested in a deep dive under the hood because you love to geek out on numbers and want to really focus on moving forward with prevention, or you have symptoms, brain fog, digestive issues, hormonal imbalances, insomnia, low or no libido, water retention, headaches, all sorts of things that you just cannot figure out where they're coming from, through our at-home functional medicine lab testing with the best of the best labs out there, we can help give you answers. Schedule your initial consult with me so you can test and not guess by going online at doable.com/test. And for a limited time, get 10% off your initial consultation by using the code PODCAST in the checkout screen. doable.com/test.
Welcome, everyone, to our Making Health Doable podcast. Today, we're featuring one of our first responders in the Doable Health program. His name is Mark Ketchum. He is a lieutenant with the City of Jacksonville Police Department. He's been a police officer for 25 and a half years and has experienced many different divisions within the agency. He is currently assigned to the administrative division, mainly in charge of hiring and training. On the side, he teaches within the basic law enforcement training program at Coastal Carolina Community College, along with some other continuing education classes at a few different community colleges. He's been married for 27 years to his wife, Tracy, and they have a 24-year-old and 18-year-old children. His favorite time off is spent at White Lake, North Carolina, enjoying life, which lake life at this time of year sounds phenomenal. Mark, welcome to our Making Health Doable podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we are excited to feature more of our first responders because, as you know, with our Doable Health program, we have our three pillars of eat well, move well, and live well. And we're now focusing a lot more on respond well, is what we're calling it, so that we can serve the agencies and the first responders that we are working with. So in our podcast today, featuring you in a lot of the physical health that you've been focusing on over the years, and then also financial health. The last time we connected in person, I was able to hear more about that passion that you have about financial health and working with first responders specifically. So we will dive into those things. But first, let's hear a little bit of breaking the ice. Let's hear a bit of some of the funniest things or a funny thing that has happened to you as a police officer.
You know, man, it's difficult to really think over 25 years of things, what is actually the most funniest. And probably the biggest one that comes to mind is very young in my career. You're motivated. I want to look good. You got that uniform all sharp and that authoritative figure. And so I'm out running traffic one evening, just turned dark, pulled a car over on the side of the road and get out and straighten up, make sure I'm looking real good. And I approached the car and, I can't even remember what I stopped them for, but I went and got their information and turned around and got back to the car safely until I tried to open my door and my door was locked. Apparently, when I was getting out of my car, I locked my door. I hit the lock button on accident. So now I'm standing here on the side of the road. I got this person's information. It's like, what am I going to do now? So, of course, you got to save face. You can't be looking down at a young age, right? So I go back up, hey, it was your lucky day. I got some other things I need to go take care of. So, verbal warning, don't do this again. So that was the first step. I got over that hurdle, right? The next step was, how the heck am I going to get my car open now?
Right.
I'm standing on the side of Highway 17. My blue lights are on, and I'm standing in uniform out here. And, at that time, so this was several years ago, cell phones, I'm probably dating myself a little bit, but not as popular, right? So we didn't carry cell phones like we do now. So, of course, it's got to go over the radio. I need somebody to come and assist me in that. So that's probably the most, having an officer come out and they knew what it was, and they had to slim jim my car, open it up. And you can imagine it took me a little while to get over that one.
Oh, I'm sure they didn't let you down either.
Oh, yeah.
They let you forget about that one, I'm sure.
No, absolutely not. That's the one thing in this job, when you work as a team and a group, you find the humor things that you can, because it helps you cope with stuff. But they don't forget things like that, especially your coworker.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I know that person that was pulled over was like, wow, I got so lucky.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We're grateful that you made that mistake. And yeah, I have been around your department in small amounts, but yes, I do notice the humor and kind of the smack talk to each other, which I actually appreciate. I think that does bring some camaraderie with you guys and makes you all feel comfortable. So yeah, I'm sure you did not live that one down. I'm surprised you didn't get a nickname from it or something.
No, I'm pretty fortunate about that one, fortunately. So
no, that's good. Good. It's a humbling experience as a young officer, I bet.
Absolutely.
Good. Well, tell us how you got started in public safety and policing. Was this something that you had wanted to do for your whole life?
Just like many, I probably watched a lot of the television shows and stuff. And it's always a fascinating career, even to those that probably you would argue don't like law enforcement. They seem to watch it, an awful lot. But I think the biggest for me is I grew up in a very Christian home. And my parents were very much servant-wise. That's kind of what they instilled in me. And I still to this day feel like I got a servant heart, per se. So I like helping people and doing a lot of those things. I got into, in high school, into the volunteer fire department down close to where I lived, spent 10, 11, 12 years and grew up really in the fire department, even till after I got in law enforcement. And I think that just helped instill that aspect of it into the first responder aspect of it. So I started going to the community college here locally for criminal justice classes. One of the professors was a former detective at Jacksonville, and also one of the volunteer fire department members was a highway patrol trooper. And just from talking, I felt like, hey, man, this seems to be what I was meant to do. So I didn't even finish college yet whenever I decided to go to BLET. At the time, my father-in-law was a full-time volunteer fire member here at Jacksonville, or a full-time or fire department member. And so he helped kind of push me into the police department with Jacksonville, and they gave me my shot. And so I hit the ground running, and it's just been great. And it's really pushed, and I'm still very active in my church and, trying to volunteer as much as I can in different organizations and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's not so much the fascination, but the servanthood more than anything is what's kind of driven me in this profession.
I feel like a profession such as this, when it requires a lot of you, does have to feel very purposeful. And it's almost for you like a ministry, right? Like this is the way that you serve people and you love on people and you protect. And we're grateful that people have in our community have that desire and passion. That's what we need out of our police officers or first responders. So yeah, you sounded like a natural fit for a first responder, but I'm curious if you did so much with the fire department, kind of as volunteer and a father-in-law in there, what made you choose policing over fire?
I don't know. I think just the fascination of the job and what it entailed more than anything. Hey, you got this nice car, the uniform aspect of it. You're out in the public. And my father worked tirelessly in construction. That was his profession for years. The heat of the summer and the cold of the winter, he was out in the elements. And that was one of those things I said, you know what, where can I work or get involved where, hey, I got a nice uniform. I've got a place I can go, the car with the heat running or the AC running, and then just the fascination of everything that goes on in law enforcement.
There's a lot.
It could be boring, but it never is, it seems like.
Yeah, there's never a dull moment, I would expect. And when you do have them, I'm sure you're grateful for a quick moment of
breathing. Oh,
yeah, I'm breathing. Your goal is to protect the peace and find peace, but that's just not natural in most of society. Is you guys are out there protecting our peace and trying to keep it so that it doesn't affect the whole community. It only affects a small group. So yeah, we are super grateful for all the first responders and specifically the police. The more I've hung out with more police officers and firefighters, but I truly have an appreciation for the jobs that are required of you. It takes a toll on you as a person in all aspects, physically, emotionally, relationally, with family members, I'm sure. So let's dive into some of the ways that you have overcome some of those things, or at least put into practice some tools that have helped you stay physically fit, financially fit. We're going to dive into that. And even just mental health, because that's such a big deal, even in society in general. Like we're all battling, we're not experiencing the traumas that first responders are. And we're overwhelmed and anxious and struggling with depression. I can only imagine when you have those levels and the constant kind of exposure to traumas. I love to kind of talk with first responders on how they manage that. Some do it well, some don't. But those who do it well is what I want to dig into. So let's dive in first to physical health. So we had our games, which is our red versus blue games in July. And I'm going to have you explain the games from your perspective in a second. But the first time I ever met you, Mark, was probably like 3 years ago. I came to the Jacksonville Department station. One of the sergeants or lieutenants was taking me around. I think it was Josh Porter. And he brought me into your fitness center, like your gym that you have. It was lunchtime and it was like you and two other guys come walking in, just like your routine kind of appointment that you had with each other to go lift weight. And I saw you bench pressing. So that was like my first exposure to you and knowing, okay, these guys actually want to commit to their health and they want to do a good job. And so in that year, we launched our red versus blue games. And since then, I'd love to hear your journey from that 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago when we started it, till about now. So I know you had always prioritized physical health, but tell us a little bit about where you were a couple years ago and how you've gotten as far to where you are today with your physical health.
So I think a pivotal moment for me was when I hit the age of 40 years old. And I know that's kind of that time frame because it started to really hit home I'm not that far away from retirement. And I'm just being honest, I haven't really been to the doctor for annual appointments and just doing the things that I should be doing and we all should be doing. I don't know whether it was a fear or what have you, who knows what it was at that time, but that's where I started opening my eyes because I started seeing a lot of not only first responders, but just individuals that were in their 40s and stuff having like really bad medical problems. And even to the point of, you see them having heart attacks and dying and stuff. And between that and retirement, I think I started really getting checkups going on. And then a couple of years ago, I got involved in a management program that the agency sent me to. I was very privileged to be able to go to that. And I knew it was coming. And I also knew that there was a physical fitness aspect to it. And I personally, what I've always said and what I truly believe is I've been intimidated by the gym. All the weights, all the machines, all the exercises, what to do, how to do it without getting hurt, all of these things. So when I realized I was getting ready to go to that training, I started going to the gym at lunchtime. The position I'm in, pretty fortunate to be able to be afforded a lunch break. So instead of going out and eating and doing whatever, I bring my gym bag and we go out. And a couple of us guys that you saw us in there that one day were in there, and they kind of took me in and said, "Hey, this is our group." And I started teaching, kind of hitting some of these exercises. They know a little bit more. And that began the habit. And that was right before, y'all started really coming in, and then the red versus blue games come in. And then, of course, fire versus police is always, and will probably always be that kind of button heads and that competitive nature about things like that. So that got me into the gym. And then when the games come along, it was just the competitive nature of it. Super, super fun. It was difficult, very, very challenging. I would argue, especially for somebody who hasn't been in the gym very long, but my competitive brain, I think more than my body likes to say, well, I'm not going to the scale version. I'm going to the full open, and I'm going to do it. Yeah. Of course, it took me a little bit longer than some, and somebody could probably argue I was maybe tied to the ones that made us lose that first.
We won't. Nope. We won't say that. I like that you pushed yourself to the open level, because those were hard. Heavier weight, It
was very difficult, but it was challenging. But the idea was to finish. And that's been my motivation from day forward. And there's probably not many days out of lunchtime that I've missed. And now, even at lunchtime, I can go in there by myself if nobody else is there, and I have an idea of what to do. I kind of know where I'm going with that. And a lot of that, the doable games help too, because we kind of know, it showed us where our weakness was.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. The things we definitely need to work on. And us as a group, we're kind of incorporating some of those things. So next year we can keep the trophy as our plan.
Yes, I know. So the first year, Fire took it, not for anyone's scores, is not to blame. But I do know that third workout the first year was a doozy and caused people to go a little bit longer. But you did, the blue, earned back that trophy this year, which I was very proud of them in doing it. And it is cool you mentioned a couple of things that I like to highlight is, one, accountability to get in the gym regularly with a group of people. I think some people like to do the gym on their own, but those are usually the people who are comfortable with it. But it is nice. I even know how to move myself around the gym, and I still really love doing it with people or doing it in like an organized class or structure. So that accountability is always very helpful to keep us consistent, which is what makes strides in any fitness, consistency, right? And then kind of like seeing where your weaknesses are is helpful. Again, we don't want to hurt anybody. We don't want to make it embarrassing, but it is nice to be challenged enough to see, okay, what are areas I need to work on? Typically, I hear from people it's the leg day or it's the lunges or something that we throw in there for lower body or the cardiovascular aspect to it. So I think that it's really cool to see you all embrace the doable games the way you have some competition. I know that speaks first responder language, and supporting each other through it as you get stronger and stronger. So what was your least favorite exercise that we've ever done in the game?
I think the least favorite exercise was stepping up on that, I don't know, was it 20-inch box, or I can't remember what it was that year, but with those weights, it's like, that was tough. So I think between that and the snatches, lifting us up over our head with the bar, that first year, the thrusters, that was pretty tough too.
I'm careful to do too complex of a move because I don't want you to get hurt. But yes, thrusters is a squat with a press overhead. So it's a very full body move, And then I think I added burpees with that one too. So it was a double
I believe
whammy
so. Yeah. That's
double
right.
whammy hard. But you did it. Hey, you did it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Finished.
So you finished
Oh,
and you made
that's
yourself
right.
proud and you've
Yes.
improved. And so we
Yep.
were even talking earlier about how since, you're 40, your 40-year-old epiphany, the practices you put into place by getting stronger, you were even telling me earlier, you're training with some of the younger guys and doing some of their tests, Cooper's test maybe, that police officers
That's
do.
correct. Yep.
And
Yeah.
you've
The
seen
felix do.
improvement.
Yes. So in the management program, that's what we were tested on, was that Cooper's test. So we did it once in January, and then we did it again. We were tested again in August, which was about 3/4 of the way through the program. And then obviously we compared the results, and the improvement that I made from January to August was, really so motivating that it really pushed me that much harder, in the gym. So I knew that I was going to go do it. It's just a matter of when. And just past Saturday, I went with the BLET students because they had their first assessment and wanted to get in there for personal reasons, not because I had any intentions on trying to, beat everybody. But it's just now I got another benchmark that I can compare, and I kept my scores, and I'm gonna keep doing it. But I think the added portion was there was a lot of motivation in those potential police officers in BLET that saw me out there running. And, I kind of heard them talking and saying, hey, okay, well, I'm not going to let Lieutenant beat me. So the competition, but also I feel like it's, in everything that we do, kind of showing a presence or showing an example, a quality, a good example is key in this profession. Of good stuff. Unfortunately, bad stuff happens as well, and that people observe that. But I think just as well, they see the good stuff that goes on too. So
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head. That's something that we're very passionate about at Doable Health, is creating a peer support, an effective peer support program. But you are doing this in a way that's very natural and organic. You're not setting up a structure and putting a lot of red tape around it. You're just showing up to take care of yourself, encouraging those younger guys and showing them like, hey, I care about you too, and myself. Let's do this together. So just kind of having that organic leadership and mentorship, I think, is critical in agencies for those younger guys to follow, so they know how to do it right, how to lead well.
absolutely.
So what is something you would tell a younger officer who maybe is starting out in the profession or maybe midway through and they really want to get their health and that be one of their strong points? What's something that you encourage them to do? Or
I think I would tell them that for career survival, because I think a lot of your young officers, and young people getting into any profession, it's very difficult for them to see 30 years down the road, the end of their career. All right. So they're not motivated to hit all of the necessary key points that they should be hitting to survive whatever career that they're in. And especially in law enforcement, with all of the traumatic events that's observed, with all of the, things that we do on a day-to-day basis and potentially could see over the course of a 25, 30-year career, they got to prepare themselves on all aspects. And what I like to use my position now in hiring as that pedestal to kind of say, hey, these are the mistakes I've made. I'm not sitting, I'm 3.5 years from retirement, and I feel like I should be much better off financially. I feel like I'm definitely on track physically. I'm very satisfied with where I am physically and kind of preparing for after career, because a lot of law enforcement has a tendency to, quickly downhill whenever they retire. They physically, mentally, and unfortunately, there's a lot of issues out there because once they leave the profession, they don't have the support group with friends and stuff. And especially if they don't have a good support group at home. There's two key elements for me. That's my faith and that's my family. My wife has been my rock. My kids have been super great, super supportive on everything that I've ever done. And and I make sure people know that. I can remember a time several years ago that I was around a big group of law enforcement, and I was looking around at the group because they were all talking about their relationships, and I was the only one that had a 20-year marriage. I mean, there was failures in their marriages all over the place. And it made me think a lot. It's like, man, I'm blessed beyond imagine in that aspect. So, letting them know that it's a total package, not only physically and mentally, but also their the relationship at home and outside of the profession. And when you're looking at financially as well, hey, we all know that law enforcement, unfortunately, has a history of not being one of the best paid jobs. I mean, but there's so many opportunities out there that any law enforcement officer can be involved in. And doing that, if they recognize that at a very young age, then potentially they could really get into preparing themselves down the road and putting themselves in that position.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring up the financial aspect because it is something I think is sometimes just overlooked for the young. Youth and all those things are wasted on the young, the health and the responsibilities of finances. But yeah, it does come along where if you're not proactive in your finances or in your health in general. But let's dive into a bit more of the financial side, because I know that's become a big passion for you to help younger officers or officers in general understand financial health. Tell us a bit more about what you're doing. I know you got a certification to help with financial planning and supporting officers, or is it just, that's what I'd like to know. Is it just for first responders, or is this something to do?
No, it's open to anybody. My intentions on getting involved in it was, sitting in the position I am and seeing some of the young officers and complaining about pay and all kinds of things like that. The first question I always would go back and ask is, where are they sitting at financially prior to complaining about pay? Is pay really the issue in that? And most of the time the answer to that is no, pay is not, because in general, we do get paid pretty good, great benefits. The city has done really well with us. So that's where it led me to get involved in it, looking at my mistakes and the things that I've made over years. And there's not a lot of financial coaching out there that is easily accessible, especially that you kind of see. So I went through the financial coach master training with the Ramsey plan, Dave Ramsey, and I've tried to follow his plan. And, my two young girls are one's sliding into college now. So we're financially in pretty good shape. And a lot of that was based off of those little guidance and the direction and the baby steps and what they teach. Not perfectly by it. Most people aren't going to do that because they don't want to sacrifice as much as necessary. So what I do is, after I got done with that training, I just put it out to anybody who wants to. And of course, at the end of the day, it's on their shoulders. I encourage you, if you need advice, if you need direction, if you need guidance, if you need coaching, then come and see me. I generally put it out there for the first responders. The first little bit is just between me and them, and I'm not, taking anything from them. I want to see them succeed. But one key element in that is it's just not them. Caveat I put into it is, if they're going to come see me, we might talk to begin with, but them and their significant other or who they're involved in their finances is, because it regardless, unless they're working as a team, again, that being able to succeed in there and for anything, whether it be emotional, physically, whatever, you got to have that support on the backside of it. And both of you have to be on the same page.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you listen to their story, you listen to where maybe some roadblocks might be for them and kind of get to the root cause. Cause like you said, it might not be just that you're not getting paid enough. It might be, how and where are we spending our money? What are we prioritizing? What's the actual root cause of why this is not healthy? We do that as health coaches for our physical bodies, and our mental health is so many times it's like, what can we get to cover up the symptoms of, going into debt or spending too much money or living paycheck to paycheck is the symptom of something much deeper. And sometimes it's a mindset with money. I know that's a big one. That's probably something you get to work on with people. But then doing it together is so important. We actually followed Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University thing about like 15, 20 years ago. It was like eye-opening for me to see where every penny goes and how to save for emergency funds, and using a cash system it holds you accountable. So I don't know if that's what you still teach, but just to go through that practice, we don't fully live by it right now because it is hard. It's a big challenge. It's a stretch.
It is.
But it just like starting anything new in the gym or in the kitchen or working on a new help tool, a new job, all these things, it creates a lot of friction. It's hard to understand. But once you grasp it and see the benefits, wow, it was very eye-opening for us to understand how important it is to line up your finances now, like early, so that life is a bit smoother later,
That's it. It's hard to see that end game.
It is.
That's what you have to focus on because it's a slow track. I look back at over 20 years and really see how much extra money that we squandered away from security jobs or teaching and things like that. It's like, why in the world did I do that?
Hindsight's 20/20, right?
That's it. I can't fix it. I can't go back and change that. And we all know that. But if I can tell somebody that, hey, these are the mistakes I made. And convince them not to make those mistakes, it'll benefit them in the long run.
Yeah. Then you're paying it forward. I think that's phenomenal. The mentorship. You seem to have a real passion of mentoring those so that they don't have to walk through the challenges that you did. And I think that's phenomenal leadership, right? But what's one thing, like, let's simplify. Finances is a big topic, right? Like we could go on forever on this one. But what is one of the most important things a young or even experienced officer who's into their career can do for financial help?
I think it's sacrificing and knowing where their money is going to. We got to have the phone, or we got to have the cable, or we got to have this subscription to this or this subscription, or I got to have the mentality of, well, you're always going to have a payment. You're always going to be paying the bank something, or, I can't wait to get X, Y, and Z, which in reality, we probably can. And most can. Delaying gratification in order to succeed down the road is extremely important. And again, I'm going to go back and say it again, as being on the same with your spouse or, significant other, or whoever you're involved in finances with, who all you're living with, and just knowing the pitfalls of dealing with finances if you're with somebody or in marriage, and how you need to go about doing it the right way, because there are a lot of pitfalls that a lot of individuals just don't see the risk. Risk has never bit them. So it's like, okay, so they can't see that. It's much like, people violating the law. A lot of people keep violating the law because they've never been caught.
Right.
It's never bit them. So being on the same page, knowing where their money is going, and then really having a plan, looking 5 years out, looking 10 years out, 15 years out, 20 years out, because you start early. You can't really get involved in putting that money aside in your 401k or your 457 or whatever, investment places that you have the ability to do it. If back here on the back end, you still owe the bank all this money, or you're dropping Lord knows how much money making these payments for this and these payments for that.
Yeah.
So
sacrificing is a big one. And knowing like some things feel very like a big sacrifice, but as soon as you put those off and spend a bit of time without them, you realize, wow, life can be okay without it, or better without some of these
absolutely
things I feel like I need. The other thing I've been trying to teach some of my children who are in their, early 20s. I know my dad tried to push this on me too, because he's very into finances, which is great. I didn't take in all of his lessons that I should have. And now at 40, mid 40, 47, I'm like, if only I'd done this. So I think a lot of us sometimes have that feeling, but it's never too late to start. One.
That's right.
And two, passing it on to the next generation. My 20-year-old children, I tell them, if you can save, I think I will probably mess these stats up. So you can correct me if this is something but if you save $100 a month starting at the age of like 22 or 24, by the time you're 40 with all the compound interest and the consistency of always $100 to yourself in the savings and never touch it, you'll be a multimillionaire by 40. So it's the simple thing where it's like, wow, just saving $100, which in their 20s sounds really steep, right? Like they're not working big jobs. It might feel hard, but as soon as you get a salary and you have a job, pay yourself, tithe, that's something that you find important, but then pay yourself every month and never touch it, and let it compound.
Yeah. And the only little piece to add to that is putting it out of savings and into an investment product. And it doesn't have to be, I think Dave Ramsey says on average 12% return. Maybe not, but they don't even say that because that's really good. Much less, even if you do 5, 6, 7% return, in that investment product, by the time you get to that age, it's going to be really big.
Yeah, that's good. So many good tips. How could somebody, as we kind of wrap up here, I know you don't have like a business right now that's, Mark Ketchum Finances, but I know this is something that you want to do and pay forward. Let's say a first responder is listening to this podcast and wants to connect with financial support. How could they get in touch with you possibly?
They can give me a phone call, send me a text. Obviously, if they send me a text, here's my name type of thing. This is what I'm interested in. But that's the easiest way. I have created a little foundational finance coaching. Coaching is kind of my title is what I wanted to do. And it's based off of, in the Bible where it talks about building your house on a rock, creating that solid foundation to move forward. Truly at the end of the day, if you want to succeed in your career financially, creating that finance which is the habits and the basic stuff makes a world of difference. But so heck yeah, send out and send me a text or your police department too.
Right. You're Save Jacksonville. What's your email? Ketchum.
Ketchum. Yeah. Ketchum at jacksonvillenc.gov.
Yep. So they could just email you too. So I know
absolutely.
Typically you probably serve within your agency pretty easily, but hey, there's a lot of other first responders out there listening who would love to meet with a financial coach who has been in their profession. I think that's very powerful too.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for your insight, for sharing your wisdom and your experiences so that we can all become better. But any last words that you'd like to share with us?
And I'll say it, no matter what's going on in society, don't listen to the naysayers in it, because there's so many more positive people out there that loves what we do. They need us out there. And I'll still say it. I said it from day one. I still say it to this day. This is the best job in the world. You have the most impact on people. You get the opportunity to get out and communicate and talk with people. And, now I'm in a position that I can bring people in. And that's my goal until I walk out the door. If they'll let me keep doing this, is bring those quality individuals into the profession and build it just as much as I, possibly can. But I still love it. And I will get out of law enforcement when I hit 30 years, but, I'll probably still be associated with it in one way or another. And I still plan on trying to do as much coaching and pushing in the first responder world as I possibly can too.
Yeah. Spoken like a true police officer. Yep. Loves the profession. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And we hope you have a great week.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon.
As we wrap up another insightful episode of Making Health Doable, we want to express our gratitude to you for joining us on this journey toward better health and wellness.
At Doable Health, we're not just a podcast. We're a dedicated team of physicians, board-certified health coaches, and law enforcement experts.
And together, we're on a mission to serve employees and first responders, providing coaching workshops and masterclasses tailored to conquer the challenges of stress, anxiety, and burnout.
But our commitment doesn't stop there. We're also passionate about improving wellness for individuals like you, offering at-home lab testing and personalized coaching to support your unique needs.
Because at the end of the day, whether you're an employee, a first responder, or simply an individual striving for better health, we're all human. And we firmly believe that life can feel better for everyone when health is made doable.
So as you go about your day, remember that you're not alone on your journey toward wellness. We're here to support you, encourage you, and provide you with the tools you need to thrive.
So stay tuned for more inspiring conversations, expert insights, and actionable advice in our future episodes. Be sure to like and subscribe on your podcast platform.
And don't forget to visit our website at dooable.com, DOOABLE.com, for additional resources and updates. Until next time, remember that health is within reach.
And together we can make it doable.